Hi BookTube. I haven't made a video on YouTube in years, and I used to be the image of consistency. Not like Steve Donahue consistency, where it was 5 videos a day, but like there was a time where I used to make a video a day. There was a time, where at least it was a few videos a week, and then it just, I just stopped for years. I want to come back. I want to make videos about books and films because that's what I like. I made 500 videos and now I don't even know where to look into the camera. I'm thinking here. So I'm going to do the BookTube Newbie Tag. I have my iPad here with the questions, so forgive me if I'm looking over here and then back at you. But, still early days. I have a little microphone hooked up to my phone. It feels like I don't even know how to do this, and it's something that I've done for years. Anyways, the BookTube Newbie Tag, because I'm a newbie. But I feel like tags that I want to do, I might adapt them to be film and book tags. We'll see. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm breaking any rules. But so the first question is, why did you start this channel? So I feel like there's two answers to this. One of them is, why did I start the channel how many years ago now? Years and years ago. It must be like 9 years ago or something. Wow. So why did I start the channel then? Is because, well, I was a kid back then. I liked making short films and little videos and editing and filming and all that kind of stuff. And I was big into YouTube just as a viewer. So I liked that whole world and making stuff. And I was making stuff before I even had a YouTube channel, like little Lego stop motion videos and all sorts. So it just felt like I wanted to make the channel for a while, and eventually I did. And I made it all sorts of things. There's some people who like just have a passion for books and that's their whole life. I'm someone who I can have a similar level of passion for books, but I also have that same level of passion for like 5 other different things. So back in the day I was making all sorts of different videos. And now it's because I've not been making videos for years, but I've been watching BookTube for like almost 5 years now, really, when I discovered Steve Donahue's channel, when he made a video about this book. I don't know if it was when he made the video, but when I first discovered it, one of his Daily Penguin videos about 4.5 years ago or something, on Montaigne's complete essays, which I eventually got because of him. I by no means finished this book, but I read a good handful of the essays, and they're so much fun. I think I must have seen like 90% of Steve Donahue's Daily Penguin videos, of which there are hundreds. And over the years, I've been watching these videos, watching book tags, things like that, and sort of imagining or answering the questions in my head. How would I answer that? How would I do that tag? But never getting involved and always feeling like a little bit left out. I was just being lazy, so I'm trying to overcome that now. And obviously I've been watching, well, not obviously, but I've been watching videos about films for even longer than that. So that's the stuff I like, stuff I want to talk about. The second question, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? I don't know. My incredible personality. But I think one thing is that I wanna incorporate films into it, because that's a huge thing. I don't want to move this camera because I spent ages figuring out where to put it and stuff. But I'm sat here next to a ton of films. I can start lifting them up for you. Yeah, well, there's like a million films next to me, Blu-rays and stuff. So, sort of combining films and books. I know booktubers talk about films all the time. Or not all the time, but I feel like, I've seen more films than a lot of booktubers. But I've read less books than a lot of booktubers. So that's, I don't know. Do I bring anything fun and unique? I don't know. We'll find out. What are you most excited about for your new channel? I think being a part of the community, the Steve Donahue, Mayberry Book Club, Hannah's books. That community. Recently was watching. Who was I watching? Let me check here. I was watching Christopher Russell. I discovered Joe Spivey's channel. That little area of BookTube I've been watching for years. Certainly Steve Donahue and Michael K. Vaughan and those people. I want to be a part of that community. Seems fun. And also I feel like I go through reading slumps, which I hate. And I feel like maybe doing this can counter that in a way. Was that even a question? What? Yeah, that was. What are you excited about being part of the community? Why do you love reading? Um, I watched a few of these newbie tag videos just like before making this, so I had a chance to think about it. So I think for me the answer is obviously I love it and I enjoy reading while I'm doing it. I like putting the book back on the shelf and feeling that I've read it and I can go back and think about that time, that adventure that I took. I can reread parts of it. I like that whole thing. But I think most of all, it's the contrast in my life during the periods where I am reading and those annoying slumps where I'm not. And if you've seen The Dark Knight Rises, this film, there's a scene where Bruce Wayne is in this pit and he has to, this prison pit, which is in the Batman Nightfall saga. You see Bane in that pit. I just started reading that comic book series. Anyways, a lot of people try and climb out of this pit over the years. Nobody's really successful. They tie themselves to a rope and they climb up so that if they fail, which they all do, they don't die, they just fall. And the rope saves them. And so Bruce Wayne, Batman, tries multiple times with the rope and fails. Eventually he tries without it and whatever. But for me, it's a terrible metaphor, but that feeling of the rope feels like, so I'm going along with my life, which is the climb. But when I fall, I have the rope, which for me is reading. That thing that grabs me. In the film, the rope is a bad thing. You have to ditch the rope so you can actually make the climb. But that's why it's a terrible metaphor. But for me, it's like, I don't know. For example, I'm way too invested in my sports teams. I watch football and basketball. If you're American, I mean soccer. That's the last time I'm going to say that word. When my team loses, it feels like I've been shot in the heart 3 times, and then 3 times in the head, and then twice in the foot, each foot as well. And that incredible pain is tough to alleviate. It feels like you can't go on your phone because all social medias are about the game that you just watched. Because, if you care about sports, you watch sports things on social media, and that becomes your whole feed. And when you lose, that feed is awful. So it feels like there's nowhere to go. When I'm reading, though, it's fine. Pick up my Kindle, pick up whatever book, and, I'm somewhere else. So that's probably the best answer I can give. When did you start reading? So I've been reading since I was as far back as I can remember, as someone in a certain film would say. As far back as I can remember. I always was a reader. Kids' books initially. All sorts of different books. I think what I can remember most from reading as a kid, there were hundreds. I read more as a child than I do now, and quicker back then. But then again, the books were easier, so. But there's a writer called Enid Blyton, writes mysteries. I used to love mysteries, and I still do. And they were like these, like children forming a little group to uncover random crimes that happened in their small town. You had like the Famous Five and Fantastic Seven and groups like that or something. That I used to read, and they'd be like really big books, and I would just devour them. Mysteries a lot, but all sorts really. And then going into that, what Americans call middle school period, where reading was a real major mandatory thing at school, I kind of gave it up for like a 3-year period, where I felt like I didn't want to read what the school set, and then I didn't want to read anything at all. And, I feel like school kills reading for everyone. I don't think it's just a me thing. But eventually coming out of that into that middle to high school period, I rediscovered my love for reading because of a film. You can see this is the unique thing I bring to BookTube. Because of this film. I know this is sealed, but it's because I watched the film online and then bought this. And anyways, but that was years ago, and I still haven't. I'm crazy. Anyways, this is Mishima: A Life in 4 Chapters by Paul Schrader, who's typically a writer, screenwriter. He wrote a lot of Scorsese films. I'm sure I have a few up here, if I can find them. Taxi Driver, probably most notably. But like some others as well, Last Temptation of Christ, some others that I'm forgetting. And then he's made some of his own films, like First Reformed in 2018, which was great, which was like a sort of remake of an Ingmar Bergman film, which I have in this box set here. Which this is a recent pickup. I'd seen the films again online and then bought this. So I loved this film, but it was really confusing. So this is a biopic about Yukio Mishima, the writer, but it's not like any biopic you'll have ever seen. It's combines reenactments of his novels, and then, or let's say, adaptation sequences from his novels, and then reenactments from him, the real life person, and he had a crazy life, and then it's sort of all just intertwined and combined with no real explanation, just things happening, but it's so beautiful and engaging and amazing. Afterwards, I thought, I'd like to know more. I like this guy. He's this weirdo. So I picked up this little series. Or what is it called? Is it a quartet? Is it something? Is it like, I don't know, it's a trilogy. What's the word for it's not a trilogy, it's a 4-part tetralogy. That's the word. I actually started with the second book, Runaway Horses. Got this one. Still has a great book smell, a really great one. This book was amazing. It is still to this day my favorite novel, but the novel I'm reading now and I'm almost done with, that's going to be my favorite. It's so obvious, and I've never heard anyone say the ending was bad. In fact, a good friend of mine is telling me the ending is great and you're going to love it. So if it's been the best thing I've ever read so far, the last 100 pages or so, it's a massive novel, I'm going to assume it's going to be my number one. But, for years, anyone asked me what's my favorite novel, this would be it. The second of this tetralogy. Then I went back and got the first one, which is Spring Snow, then the third and the fourth. And through Mishima, I came back into reading, having to take a few more little pauses just to take breaths. I don't know how Steve Donahue rattles off 5 30-minute videos. It feels like he doesn't even breathe in these videos. I'm out of breath. He doesn't drink anything, nothing, whatever. The Iliad was a big thing for me. So I think this was sort of transitioning after Mishima. You know what? Let's start reading the classics. It didn't even feel like a sort of, a decision. It just felt natural. That's, in cinema, I'm interested in the classics. I mean, I watch all sorts of new releases, but that's sort of what draws me in. And that's what I wanted to read. So this was amazing. This edition as well is amazing. I would like to go back and read the Robert Fitzgerald translation when I reread this. But, it was a great experience. And then, I went into all sorts of different classics, Dickens and Dostoevsky and stuff like that. So that was what Booker's series got you into reading. So as a child, there was all sorts of millions of different things. I mean, I don't know how many, but it was tons and tons of books. I was just always reading. That was the time before, I had social media and before all these distractions and before, whatever. A more peaceful time. When did you start? See, I feel like, okay, when did you start reading? I feel like I've already told that story, I guess. I feel like I'm getting confused as to where I'm even at in the tag. But I've already said, when did I start reading? As a child, paused, came back. Yeah. What kind of books do you like to read? Again, I feel like I've already answered this by answering another question in the tag. I feel like I would read almost anything. But also, I'm kind of a slow reader. And I don't have enough self-control to stay as consistent as I want to. What I'm trying to say is I don't read as much as I want to. And so I know that the amount is less than I want to and limited. So when it comes to picking a new book, I'm more going to gravitate to these kind of classics because that's what I love the most. But I think I'd read anything. I think if you come back to me in 10 years, if I'm hopefully still alive, Steve Donahue is constantly reminding us that in 2 seconds we'll be dead. So, but sometime in the future, I feel like if you ask me this question and I'm older and more experienced as a reader, I feel like I like to say I'd read anything except for probably self-help, which I have no interest in. That self-help business psychology. I don't mean I've read a bit of this, The Essentials of Psychoanalysis from Freud. Freud seems like he's saying a bunch of nothingness. He's annoying in that way, but this was fun to read. That's kind of what I care about. Even if the guy's ideas all seem terrible and ridiculous and unfounded. Certainly not scientific, but... So, this kind of psychology, okay, but it's bordering on the stuff that I don't want to read. But the type of stuff that you'll see most commonly in bookstores... There's a book in my mind I'm thinking of. I haven't read it, but it's called What to Do When Surrounded by Idiots or something like that. That kind of book, which is like a combination of self-help, business psychology. Maybe that book is great, but that type of combination of genres, no, thank you. Philosophy. I read the first of these Socratic dialogues from Plato, The Last Day of Socrates, and it was a lot of fun. But I think Plato is like a rare exception. I have this volume of Nietzsche. I don't know if Nietzsche's an exception. Some people say he is. Some people say he's really dry. I haven't read any of this yet. But I've read some like extracts of Nietzsche. Some of it was interesting. But generally, philosophy is not something I'm particularly interested in. YA, which I read a decent amount as a kid. I'm sorry if I keep like touching my... I was known for constantly doing this to my hair in a video. I'm a little fidgety. Anyways. Yeah, so YA, which I did read a decent amount of as a kid. And early teens. It's not something that I'd probably be interested in now. But besides that, Western, fantasy, romance, science fiction, I'd read any of that. Non-fiction, all sorts of stuff I'd read, I don't mind. But mostly the classics are my favourite. But generally, there's almost everything I'd read, besides those few little things that I mentioned. What's the next question? Where do you read? I assume this just means literally the position that I'm in when I'm read. So my bed is over there. Often I'm reading lying in bed. If I've just had a meal and I'm bloated, then I'll sit down in the living room downstairs on a sofa and read. Sometimes I'll read outside. I mean, the answer for this is anywhere. I'll read on the train. I'm constantly on the train. Always. I hate trains, but I'm always on them. I'll read on the train. I'll read outside. I read on walks a lot. There's a shop nearby where I go and get some essentials sometimes. It's like a 10-15 minute walk. I'll take my Kindle with me back and forth. Or when I go, I'm a member of this health club nearby. I go swimming. It's like a 10-minute walk. I'll read there, put the Kindle in my bag when I go to the changing room, come back and read on the way. But yeah, generally in bed or downstairs on the sofa. The penultimate question is, what questions would you ask your favourite booktubers? So my favourite booktuber, probably my favourite YouTuber, not probably, definitely, is Steve Donahue. And I've asked a lot of the questions that I would ask because he constantly does like these formal YouTube Q&As and then these live stream Q&As. And he's just unique in that he will answer all your questions, which is great. And sometimes I'll email him with questions. But again, he's been to like every country in the world, read every book. He's seen a lot of films. I don't know. Maybe he's seen more than me. That would, he doesn't even sleep more than like 2 hours a day. There's so many questions to ask the alien known as Steve Donahue. But yeah, all sorts of questions. I think it's more personal. You get to know someone as a friend. You'd ask, oh, what do you think of this book? What do you think of that book? Or you just get into different discussions. Maybe general booktubers. How do you arrange your day in terms of filming? How do you allot time? Where do you film? What do you But since I've already been making videos for a while, the technical stuff isn't, a huge burden on my head. But I'm coming back to this after a few years of not doing it. So it is different for me. The 10th question is, what challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I think it's the consistency. But in saying that, I'm like 22 minutes into filming this video, which will probably be cut down a bit shorter. And it's been a lot of fun. I am a big... I like filmmaking. And I like editing. At least my own things. And so I've made videos before, if you go back. I don't want you to watch all my older videos. You could if you want. I'd probably rather you didn't, but the newest of the older videos, which are like a few years ago, you can see some of the intense editing that I've done. I like that stuff, but I don't want to burden myself in starting, you know, this whole BookTube journey by thinking every video has to be to that standard, because I'm, you know, when I get into that, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, because I really like that kind of stuff. But doing a simple video like this, maybe I'll make them a little more complex as I go on, but a simple video like this, I'm just talking about books, films, stuff like that, seems pretty easy to be consistent. Then again, who knows? So that's the end of this BookTube Newbie Tag. I'm going to post this. Maybe I'll shoot another video. It was fun. Yeah, if you liked my answers, if you're interested, go ahead and subscribe, I guess. I'll be back.